Commander Vrek stood at the edge of the cargo bay, his forearms crossed in what he hoped looked like confident authority, rather than barely contained panic. The human contract worker was late. Again. "She is coming, yes?" Lieutenant Thas asked, his antennae twitching with worry. "The shipment must reach the forward base before the storm season begins. Without those supplies, the entire northern garrison will—" "I know what will happen," Vrek interrupted, his secondary mouth clicking in irritation. The massive cargo containers sat exactly where they had been placed 6 hours ago, each one weighing approximately 4,000 kilograms. His best loading mechs had broken down 3 days prior, and the replacement parts were stuck somewhere in bureaucratic hell. The containers needed to be loaded manually onto the transport, and his crew of 20 soldiers had attempted the task for 2 hours before admitting defeat. 20 Jacquerin warriors, veterans of 3 campaigns, unable to move a box. The embarrassment was crushing. "Commander," one of his soldiers called from the entrance, "the human is here." Vrek turned, expecting perhaps a towering specimen of Earth genetics, maybe one of those enhanced soldiers he had heard about. Instead, a young woman walked in, barely reaching his chest height, with dark hair pulled back in a simple tail and wearing a faded gray worksuit that had seen better days. She carried a worn tool bag over one shoulder and was chewing something, her jaw working in a casual rhythm that suggested complete disinterest in military protocol. "You are the cargo specialist?" Vrek asked, unable to keep the skepticism from his voice. "Name's Maya Torres," she said, not bothering with a salute. She looked at the containers, then at his assembled troops, then back at him. "So, what's the problem exactly?" "The problem," Vrek said slowly, "is that these containers need to be loaded onto that transport within the next 4 hours, or we miss our launch window. The problem is that our equipment has failed, and manual loading has proven difficult." Maya walked over to the nearest container, rapped her knuckles against its side, and checked the manifest display on its surface. 4 tons each, standard military-grade storage units. You've got 20 guys here. She looked around at his soldiers, who were all significantly larger than her. "What's the holdup?" Thas's antennae flattened against his skull, a sign of deep embarrassment. "The containers are heavy." "Yeah, they're 4 tons, Maya said. "That's kind of the point of having containers." "You misunderstand," Vrek said, his pride stinging. "They are too heavy for us to lift safely. Even with full crews attempting each container, we can barely shift them. To load all 15 would require equipment we do not currently possess." Maya stopped chewing. She looked at the containers again, then at the soldiers, then started laughing. Not a polite chuckle, but a full, genuine laugh that echoed through the cargo bay. Several of his troops shifted uncomfortably. "Oh man," she said, wiping her eyes. "You guys are serious. You actually cannot move these." "It is not a matter of humor," Vrek said coldly. "If you cannot assist, then—" "Relax, Commander," Maya said, dropping her tool bag. "I'm not laughing at you. Well, okay, maybe a little. But mostly I'm laughing because this is literally my job, and you all look so stressed about it." She cracked her knuckles, a sound that made Thas flinch. "Watch and learn." She approached the first container, bent down slightly, and gripped the handles on either side. Vrek opened his mouth to warn her about proper lifting procedures, about the risk of injury, about the futility of attempting this alone. Then she lifted it, not struggled with it, not dragged it slightly. She stood up, straightened her back, and held 4,000 kilograms like it was a particularly bulky piece of luggage. The container rose smoothly off the ground, and she turned with it, walking toward the transport ramp without any visible strain. The cargo bay went silent except for the sound of Maya's boots on the metal floor. She walked up the ramp, moved into the transport's cargo hold, set the container down with a solid thunk in the designated space, and walked back out. The entire process took maybe 45 seconds. "One down," she said cheerfully. 14 to go. Vreck's brain had stopped processing information correctly. He was dimly aware that his jaw had dropped open, that his soldiers were staring with similar expressions of shock, and that the fundamental laws of physics as he understood them had apparently taken a vacation. "How?" Lieutenant Thass whispered. "How is that possible?" Maya grabbed the second container. "What do you mean? They're not that heavy." "Not that heavy?" Vreck found his voice, though it came out at a significantly higher pitch than intended. "That is 4,000 kilograms. You are lifting 4,000 kilograms like it is nothing." "Well, it's not nothing," Maya said, setting down the second container in the transport. She was not even breathing hard. "I mean, I can feel it. But Earth gravity is about 0.98 higher than standard galactic, so this is like lifting maybe 3,000 kilos back home. Which, yeah, is a decent workout, but nothing crazy." She grabbed the third container. "You are telling me," Vreck said, his voice getting progressively more strained, "that humans regularly lift 3,000 kilograms on your homeworld?" "What? No, don't be ridiculous," Maya said. This brought Vreck a moment of relief, a return to sanity. Most humans can lift like 60, maybe 80 kilos safely without training, maybe 150 if they really work at it. Then how— "Oh, I'm from the Highland settlements," Maya said casually, loading the fourth container. "Grew up at about 2.3 times Earth standard gravity. Spent my whole childhood in that. Your standard galactic is like being on the moon for me. Everything's light." Vreck did the math in his head, then did it again, because the numbers made no sense. "You grew up in gravity more than twice standard galactic levels?" "Yep." Maya grabbed container number 5. "The mining colonies needed people who could work in high-gravity environments without equipment. My family's been there for 4 generations. You adapt or you leave." She grinned. "We adapted." "This is insane," Thass muttered. "This is completely insane." Container 6. Container 7. Maya was working up a slight sweat now, but she had not slowed down. If anything, she had gotten faster as she figured out the most efficient path from the cargo bay floor to the transport's hold. "So let me get this straight," Reek said, following her as she grabbed container 8. "Your species, which already evolved on a high-gravity world, decided to settle on even higher gravity worlds, and you grew up in conditions that would crush most galactic species." "Pretty much," Maya said. "I mean, it's not like it's easy or anything. Bone density issues if you're not careful, cardiovascular stress, joint problems in old age. But the pay is good, and somebody's got to do the heavy lifting." She smirked at her own joke. Container 9 went onto the transport, then 10, then 11. Vreck's soldiers had gathered around to watch, their shock gradually transforming into something like awe. One of them started keeping time with a chronometer, calling out the intervals. 42 seconds for that one. 38 for the next. By the void, she is not even slowing down. Container 12. Container 13. Maya paused to take a drink from a bottle in her tool bag, then immediately went back to work. 14. 15. The last container was placed in the transport exactly 27 minutes after she had started. Maya wiped her forehead with the back of her hand, double-checked that everything was secured properly, and then walked back to where Vreck stood frozen. "All set," she said. "Anything else you need? Moved?" Vreck had no words. His vocabulary, extensive and refined through years of military service, had completely abandoned him. "That was quick, yeah," Maya said. "I've got another job lined up in an hour, so I need to hustle. Your payment should process automatically through the contract system. If there are any issues, just ping my comm. Wait, Rex said, his mind finally catching up. You do this regularly? Moving cargo like this? It's literally my job title, Maya said, shouldering her tool bag. Human Heavy Cargo Specialist. There are maybe 200 of us working the station circuit, all from high-gravity colonies. We charge premium rates because, well, you saw why. She gestured at his still-stunned soldiers. Most species need teams and equipment for this stuff. We just need a good breakfast and decent shoes. The other humans on the station, Thassi said slowly. They cannot do this? Nope. Regular gravity humans are strong, sure, stronger than most species, but they're working with Earth normal. I'm working with memories of 2.3 times that, and a body that built itself to survive that pressure. Maya checked her wrist comm. Look, I really do need to go. Your shipment's secure, properly balanced, and ready for transport. Try not to hit any asteroids. She started walking toward the exit, and Rek felt the urgent need to say something, anything, that would make sense of what he had just witnessed. How much can you lift? He called after her. Maximum weight. What is your limit? Maya paused at the doorway, considering. Honestly? Never really tested my max. The heaviest thing I've moved was maybe 9,000 kilos, but that was awkward shaped, so it was more about balance than weight. She shrugged. I'll tell you this, though, Commander. If you ever need something really heavy moved, something that seems impossible, call a Deathworlder. Call someone from Earth. Better yet, call someone from the Earth colonies where gravity doesn't mess around. She waved casually and disappeared into the corridor. Vrek stood in the cargo bay, surrounded by his warriors, staring at the transport that was now fully loaded. The job that should have taken his entire crew most of the day, possibly multiple days if they had needed to requisition special equipment, had been completed by one human woman in under half an hour. Sir? Thas said quietly. What just happened? I am not entirely sure, Rek admitted, but I think we just learned why humans have the reputation they do. She was not even trying hard, one of his soldiers said, his voice filled with wonder and maybe a touch of fear. Did you see her face? She looked bored. Humans are classified as coming from a Class 7 Deathworld, another soldier said. I knew that. We all knew that. But knowing it and seeing it are very different things. Breck pulled up his personal console and started typing rapidly. He accessed the galactic database, specifically the sections on human capabilities and Earth classification. The information was there, had always been there, but he had never really paid attention to the details. High gravity, extreme weather variations, aggressive predators in nearly every biome, toxic atmosphere levels that were merely uncomfortable for humans but deadly to most species, disease resistance that bordered on absurd, pain tolerance that made medical professionals nervous. And then there were notes about the colony worlds. Humans had not been satisfied with just spreading to Earth-like planets. They had deliberately chosen worlds that were harder, more hostile, more punishing. Worlds where they needed to be stronger, just to survive. Request all available files on human heavy cargo specialists, Rek said to his console. The results came back immediately. 217 currently registered workers across the local sector, all from high-gravity colonies, all capable of feats that would require mechanical assistance for virtually any other species, all available for hire at rates that suddenly seemed extremely reasonable. Sir, Thas said, the Colonel is going to ask how we managed to load the shipment so quickly. Then we will tell him the truth, Breck said. We hired a human. He will not believe us. Then we will show him the security footage. Vrek gestured at the monitoring systems that had recorded everything. And then he will understand what I am beginning to understand. Which is? Vrek watched the playback on his console. Maya lifting container after container, moving with steady efficiency, not struggling or straining beyond a slight increase in effort. Just doing her job. Humans call their homeworld Earth, Vrek said slowly. A simple name, pleasant sounding. It means dirt or soil in their primary language. Nothing threatening about it. Your point, sir? My point, Lieutenant, is that humans are very good at making things sound less dangerous than they actually are. Vrek closed his console. They call their planet dirt. They call themselves human, which means nothing in particular. They smile and joke and act friendly. And then they lift 4 tons like it is shopping bags. Are you saying we should be worried? I am saying, Vrek said, that I am very, very glad that humans prefer trade contracts to conquest. Because if they ever decided they wanted to take something from us, I am not sure we could stop them. The transport launched on schedule, carrying supplies that would keep the northern garrison operational through the storm season. Vrek filed his report, including a detailed recommendation that human heavy cargo specialists be contracted for any future operations requiring unusual strength or heavy lifting capabilities. He also added a personal note, one that would likely be filed away and forgotten, but that he felt needed to be said. Commander's observation. Today I watched a single human woman complete a task that 20 of my soldiers could not manage with combined effort. She did so quickly, efficiently, and without apparent difficulty. This has prompted a re-evaluation of human capabilities and potential. If this is what their civilian contract workers can accomplish, I find myself wondering what their soldiers can do. Recommend continued diplomatic and trade relations with humanity. Strongly recommend never providing them with reasons to demonstrate their full capabilities in combat situations. He hit send and sat back in his chair, still processing what he had witnessed. Somewhere on the station, Maya Torres was probably moving another impossible load, treating the extraordinary as routine, being exactly what humans seem to be, simultaneously friendly and absolutely terrifying once you understood what they actually were. Deathworlders. The word took on new meaning, and Vrek had just scratched the key surface. 3 weeks passed before Vrek saw Maya Torres again, and when he did, it was under circumstances he would have preferred to avoid entirely. The distress call had come through at 400 station time. A structural failure in Dock 7, the oldest section of the station, had triggered a cascade of emergency protocols. Vrek had grabbed his emergency gear and headed to the command center, expecting the usual chaos of evacuation procedures and damage control. What he found was worse. The support beam has collapsed, Chief Engineer Rolvik explained, his 6 eyes blinking in different patterns of stress. It fell across the primary access corridor, trapping approximately 40 workers in the maintenance section. We cannot cut through it because the vibrations might destabilize the entire dock structure. We cannot lift it with our equipment because the ceiling clearance is insufficient for proper leverage. How long until we can evacuate the trapped workers through alternative routes? Vrek asked. 6 hours minimum, Rolvik said. But we do not have 6 hours. The beam fractured the oxygen distribution line. They have maybe 90 minutes of breathable air, possibly less if anyone panics. Vrek felt his chest tighten. 90 minutes, 40 lives, and a problem that could not be solved with standard procedures. What about emergency airlocks? Can we pressurize the section? The beam is blocking the emergency systems as well, Rolvik said. Commander, I have run every scenario. We need to move that beam, and we need to do it in the next hour, or people are going to suffocate. How much does the beam weigh? Rolvik checked his tablet. Approximately 12,000 kilograms. It is solid Durasteel composite, designed to support an entire dock section. Our largest mobile lifter can handle 8,000 at maximum extension. But as I said, we do not have the clearance to position it properly. Vrek stared at the schematic on the main display, his mind racing through options. 12,000 kilograms. More than 3 times what Maya had lifted in the cargo bay. But she had said her maximum was around 9,000, and that was for an awkward lift. Still, what choice did he have? "Get me a comm link to Maya Torres," Vrek said, the human cargo specialist. Rolvik's eyes blinked in confusion. "Sir, this is a structural emergency. We need engineers, not cargo handlers. Just get her on the line." It took 3 minutes to locate Maya, and another 2 to explain the situation. Her response was immediate. "I'm 15 minutes away. Don't try anything stupid before I get there." She arrived in 12 minutes, wearing the same faded work suit and carrying a larger version of her tool bag. Her hair was loose this time, and she looked like she had been woken up suddenly, but her eyes were sharp and focused. "Show me," she said, without preamble. They took an emergency transit cart to Dock 7. The collapsed beam was even more intimidating in person, a massive metal structure that had crushed through 2 levels of flooring and now lay at an angle across the corridor, like a fallen tree. Vrek could hear sounds from beyond it, voices calling out, someone coughing. Maya walked around the beam, examining it from multiple angles. She knocked on it in several places, checking the structural integrity. She looked at the ceiling, the walls, the floor beneath it. "You said 12,000 kilos?" she asked. "Yes," Rolvik confirmed. "Perhaps slightly more depending on the exact composition." "And you need it moved completely clear of the corridor so people can get through?" "Ideally lifted and shifted approximately 3 meters to the left," Rolvik said. "That would clear the access point and the oxygen line." Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she set down her tool bag and started pulling out equipment. Gloves with reinforced palms, a back brace that looked more like light armor, knee supports. She put each piece on methodically, testing the fit. "This is going to hurt," she said conversationally. "Just so we're clear. This is well past my comfortable range, and I'm probably going to feel it for a week. But it's doable." "You can lift 12,000 kilograms?" Vrek asked, hope and disbelief fighting in his chest. "I can try," Maya said, finishing her preparations. "I've never gone this heavy before, and there's a real chance I'll fail. But those people don't have time for you to requisition better equipment, so we're doing this the stupid way." She looked directly at Vrek. "I'm going to need everyone to back up about 10 meters. If I drop this thing, it could bounce, and I don't want anyone getting crushed." "If you drop it, the vibrations could collapse more of the dock," Rolvik protested. "Then I guess I better not drop it," Maya said. She approached the beam, positioning herself at what looked like the balance point. "When I get this up, you'll have maybe 30 seconds before my muscles give out. Get your people through fast. Understood?" Vrek nodded, already signaling to the emergency teams waiting nearby. Maya bent down, gripping the beam with both hands. Her stance was wide, her back straight despite the brace. Vrek could see her taking several deep breaths, preparing herself. Then she lifted. The beam did not move at first. Maya's face went red with effort, the muscles in her neck standing out like cables. Her legs trembled, and for a horrible moment, Vrek thought she was going to fail, that this was too much even for a Deathworlder. Then, with a sound like grinding metal, the beam shifted. Centimeter by centimeter, it rose from the floor. Maya's arms were shaking now, her entire body engaged in the effort. She made a sound that was half growl, half scream, something primal and desperate. The beam kept rising. 15 centimeters clear, Rolvik shouted. 20! 25! Maya took a step to the left, still holding the beam. Then another step. The metal groaned in her grip, but she did not let go. Her face was a mask of concentration and pain, sweat pouring down her forehead. "Corridor is clear!" someone shouted. "Go! Go! Go!" The emergency teams rushed in, pulling trapped workers through the gap Maya had created. Vrek counted them as they came through. 10, 20, 30, 35. 10 more seconds, Maya gasped. Her voice was strained, barely human. "I can hold. 10 more. 38, 39. "Last one clear," the team leader called. Maya dropped the beam. It hit the floor with a thunderous crash that echoed through the entire dock section. She stumbled backward, would have fallen if Vrek had not caught her. She was breathing like she had run a marathon, her entire body trembling. "Medical team!" Vrek shouted, but Maya waved them off. "I'm okay," she panted. "Just need a minute, and maybe a month vacation." She sat down heavily on a cargo crate, her hands still shaking. Vrek could see burns on her palms where the metal had heated from friction. Her arms were red and swelling slightly. "You lifted 12,000 kilograms," Rolvik said, his voice filled with awe. "You actually did it." "Yeah, well," Maya said between breaths. "Don't ask me to do it again. That was definitely my limit. Maybe past my limit." She flexed her fingers, wincing. "Going to need some serious recovery time after this." The medical team arrived anyway, checking her vitals and treating the burns on her hands. Maya tolerated their attention with obvious impatience, more concerned with whether everyone had gotten out safely than with her own injuries. 40 workers extracted, the emergency coordinator reported to Vrek. No casualties, some minor injuries from the initial collapse, but everyone is accounted for and stable. Vrek felt something loosen in his chest. 40 lives saved, because one human woman had decided that the impossible was merely difficult. "Miss Torres," he said formally, "on behalf of the station command and the 40 people whose lives you just saved, I offer my deepest gratitude and respect." "Just doing my job," Maya said, though she smiled slightly. "Though this is definitely going on my resume and my hazard pay invoice." "You will be compensated appropriately," Vrek assured her. "More than appropriately." The medical team wanted to take Maya to the infirmary for observation, but she refused until she had confirmed that the dock was stable and that no further collapses were imminent. Only after Rolvik had run a complete structural analysis and declared the immediate area safe did she agree to leave. Vrek accompanied her to the infirmary, partly out of respect and partly because he had questions that needed answers. "How did you know you could lift that much?" he asked as they walked. "You said you had never tried it before." "I didn't know," Maya admitted. "I mean, I had a rough idea based on training lifts and previous jobs, but that was definitely at the edge of my capabilities. Maybe past it. Yet you tried anyway." "Commander, 40 people were going to die if I didn't try," Maya said simply. "What was I supposed to do? Let them suffocate because I was worried about pulling a muscle? You could have been seriously injured. You could have dropped the beam on yourself. You could have caused a larger structural collapse." "Could have, sure," Maya said, "but didn't. And now 40 people get to go home to their families." She shrugged, then winced as the movement pulled at her strained shoulders. "Look, I grew up in a place where everything was trying to kill you. High gravity, toxic atmosphere spikes, unstable geology. You learn pretty quick that sometimes the choice isn't between safe and dangerous. Sometimes it's between dangerous and letting people die. I'll take dangerous every time." They reached the infirmary, where a Trellan doctor immediately began fussing over Maya's injuries. Vrek stepped back to give them room, but he could not stop thinking about what she had said. The next day, Breck found himself in a meeting with Station Administrator Quellen, a Vraxian with administrative experience spanning 3 decades. Quellen had reviewed the incident reports and security footage, and his expression was deeply troubled. "This Maya Torres," Quellen said. "She is registered as a civilian contractor, yes? Not military personnel." "Correct," Breck confirmed. "And she successfully lifted a 12,000-kilogram support beam with no equipment assistance." "I witnessed it personally, Administrator. So did Chief Engineer Rolvik, and approximately 20 emergency personnel." Quellen was quiet for a moment, his breathing apparatus clicking softly. "Commander, I have been reviewing the galactic records on human capabilities, specifically, humans from their high-gravity colonies. The information is concerning." "In what way?" "In every way," Quellen said. "Commander, do you know how many Deathworld species currently have representation in the Galactic Council?" "I believe 7, including humans." "Correct. Do you know how many of those species have established colonies on worlds with gravity higher than their homeworld?" Breck felt a chill. "Just humans." "Exactly. Every other Deathworld species spreads to worlds that are easier to survive on, more comfortable, less hostile. Humans do the opposite. They deliberately choose the hardest worlds, the most dangerous environments, and then they adapt to them. Within 4 generations, Maya Torres's family went from Earth normal to surviving in more than double standard gravity." Quellen pulled up data on his display. "There are currently 147 human colony worlds classified as more hostile than Earth itself. 147. Some have gravity approaching 3 times standard. Some have atmospheric conditions that would kill unprotected humans in minutes. And yet, they thrive." "They are survivors," Breck said. "They are more than survivors, Commander. They are a species that deliberately makes themselves stronger by seeking out hardship." Quellen stood, pacing his office. "I have been administrator of this station for 12 years. In that time, I have managed 63 different species, handled countless disputes and emergencies. But the humans unsettle me in ways I cannot fully articulate." "Because they are dangerous?" "Because they are dangerous, and we do not treat them as such," Quellen said. "They are friendly. They integrate well into our communities. They follow our laws and respect our customs. And so, we forget what they actually are. We forget that their weakest civilians are stronger than our trained soldiers. We forget that they come from a world that would kill most of us in hours, if not minutes. We forget that they look at places we would consider uninhabitable and see opportunities for settlement." Breck understood the administrator's concern. He had felt it himself, watching Maya work. That disconnect between the cheerful, casual young woman and the terrifying display of raw, physical power. "What are you suggesting?" Breck asked. "I am not sure," Quellen admitted. "The humans have been nothing but beneficial to our station. Their workers are efficient. Their traders are fair. Their diplomats are reasonable. But after yesterday, after watching footage of Maya Torres lifting a support beam that should have required industrial equipment, I find myself wondering what we would do if humans ever decided they did not want to be reasonable anymore." "They are part of the Galactic Council," Breck said. "They have treaties, trade agreements, mutual defense pacts. They have as much invested in galactic peace as anyone." "True," Quellen said. "But, Commander, Maya Torres saved 40 lives yesterday. She risked serious injury to herself to save people she had never met, of species she had no particular connection to. She did it because it was the right thing to do. That seems admirable, not concerning." "It is both," Quellen said. "It means that humans have ethics, that they value life, that they will sacrifice themselves for others. All positive traits. But it also means they have the strength of will to push past pain and fear, to attempt things that seem impossible, to succeed through sheer determination, when any other species would fail. He turned to face Vrek directly. Kindness backed by that kind of power is wonderful until it is not, until something pushes them too far, until someone threatens something they care about, until they decide that being reasonable is no longer an option. You think humans could be a threat to galactic stability? I think humans are already a threat to galactic stability, Quellen said quietly. But they are a threat that currently chooses not to threaten. They are a loaded weapon that has decided to be a tool instead. And we should all be very, very grateful for that choice, and very, very careful not to give them reasons to reconsider. The meeting ended shortly after, but the conversation stayed with Vrek for days. He found himself observing the humans on the station more closely. The maintenance crews who worked in sections too hazardous for other species. The security officers who could subdue violent criminals without weapons. The medical personnel who understood trauma and injury in ways that spoke to a history of surviving both. They smiled and joked and integrated seamlessly into station life. And beneath that friendly surface was something ancient and primal, something that had clawed its way up from a hostile world and decided that nowhere in the galaxy was hostile enough to stop them. 2 weeks after the dock incident, Vrek received a message from Maya. She was fully recovered and back to work, and she wanted to thank him for the hazard pay bonus that had been added to her invoice. He replied with a simple message. Thank you for saving my people. Your strength is impressive. Her response came quickly. Any time, Commander. That's what we're here for. Besides, compared to growing up on New Perth, lifting heavy things on a nice, safe station is basically a vacation. Stay safe out there. Vrek read the message 3 times, focusing on that one phrase. A nice, safe station. To Maya Torres, to a human from a high-gravity colony, this station was safe. This installation that hosted 63 different species, that dealt with regular equipment failures and occasional structural emergencies, that existed in the vacuum of space where a single hull breach could kill hundreds, was considered safe and easy compared to her childhood home. He thought about New Perth, looked it up in the database. 2.3 times Earth gravity. Frequent seismic activity. Atmosphere with sulfur dioxide levels that required filtration systems. Native flora that was toxic to human consumption, and fauna that was actively predatory. Average life expectancy for colonists, 62 years, compared to Earth's 130. And humans had volunteered to live there, had raised families there, had produced people like Maya who considered it normal. Vrek closed his console and sat in the quiet of his office, contemplating the nature of humanity. They were not conquerors, not warriors seeking dominion over the galaxy. They were simply people, living their lives, doing their jobs, being friendly and helpful. But they were people who had been forged in fire and pressure and endless hardship. People who carried that strength with them wherever they went, even if they did not talk about it or show it off. People who would lift impossible weights to save strangers, who would push past their limits because it was the right thing to do. Deathworlders. The word had become inadequate. It captured the danger of their origin, but not the complexity of their character. They were dangerous, yes, but they were also kind. They were strong, but they used that strength to help rather than harm. At least for now. At least as long as the galaxy gave them reasons to stay helpful. Vrek made a note in his personal log, a reminder to himself and any future commanders who might read it. Treat humans with respect. Value their friendship. Honor their contributions. and never, ever forget what they are capable of when pushed. We are fortunate that they choose to lift us up rather than crush us down. May we always deserve that choice. He hit save and returned to his duties, managing a station where humans worked alongside dozens of other species, lifting heavy loads and saving lives, being simultaneously ordinary and extraordinary. Maya Torres went back to her contracts, moving cargo that seemed impossible, making the difficult look easy, living proof that humanity's greatest strength was not their power, but their willingness to use it for good. And in the records of Station 7, in the emergency response files and incident reports, her actions were documented and remembered. A human woman who had lifted 12,000 kilograms to save 40 lives. A Deathworlder who had chosen to be a hero. The story spread through the station, then to other stations, then across the local sector. Not as a tale of conquest or domination, but as something simpler and more powerful. A reminder that strength meant nothing without the will to use it well. And humanity, it seemed, had both in abundance,